Michael Giordano, President of the Politics Club. I would like to welcome you to our mock presidential debate. Joining me is Drew Panarello, who is the Vice President of the club. The Republican nominee for the President of the United States is portrayed by Matt DePino, and Democratic nominee for the President of the United States is portrayed by Alexa Blasiak. Please welcome our candidates, Republican nominee Donald J. Trump and Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton. Welcome, candidates. The format for this debate is as follows. There are three sections. We begin with the economy, followed by social issues, and lastly, foreign policy and national security. In each section, candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and 1 minute will be allotted to answer a follow-up question or speak after a question specific to a particular candidate has been answered. Let's begin. The first topic for today is the economy, and central to that is jobs. There's been a record 6 straight years of job growth, and incomes have increased at a record rate after years of stagnation. But at the same time, income inequality remains significant, and nearly half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Beginning with you, Secretary Clinton, why are you a better choice than your opponent to create the kinds of jobs that will put more money into the pockets of American workers?
Thank you. I am committed in building the economy that would benefit all of America, unlike Mr. Trump. He only benefits the 1%. I'm going to benefit all of America. I will create 10.4 million jobs. This will be the beautiful America I see, and I will always see.
Mr. Trump, the same question to you. It's about putting money, more money, into the pockets of American workers. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I would say that my opponent is wrong, that I am only going to favor the 1% and that I don't care about creating jobs for everyone in this country. My main strategy is to lower the company tax rate, as I'm sure many of you know, by 20%. People that want to come here, they want to start a company, they can't always get that far. They can't hire a lot of people because they need to pay such high taxes at 35%. If we lower that all the way down to 15%, they will be able to expand their company successfully and hire more people, rather than moving to other countries like China or Mexico for cheap labor. And if those countries do happen to move down, we will do whatever we can to bring them back by putting tariffs on their imports. That way, if they won't be able to pay down there, they'll realize that it's much more strategic financially for them to come back up here and hire more workers, which is going to create a lot of jobs in this country, but only if we lower the company tax rate. That is the best way to create jobs.
Mr. Trump, you have talked about creating 25 million jobs, and you've promised to bring back millions of jobs for Americans. How are you able to bring back the industries and specific corporations that have left this country for labor overseas?
Well, like I just said, the main part is that we're going to put tariffs on their imports. That's going to definitely want to make them come back. They will not be able to pay that kind of money, and they're going to realize that moving down there was not a good decision, and coming back here where they can expand their company with a lower company tax rate is definitely the smarter decision. Additionally, we're going to try to renegotiate trade deals so that companies like the ones in Detroit will not move. That is the best way to make sure that we can create jobs in this country and that we are creating a stronger nation and a safer nation. Because as you know, poverty and having no job leads to crime. And that's why places like Detroit, who have been destroyed by the trade deals this country has made, have a lot of crime.
Secretary Clinton, you have 1 minute to respond.
I don't agree with any of your issues with that whatsoever. You will not invest in the middle class, and America won't be great again, Mr. Trump.
Under the Affordable Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare, premiums, deductibles, and copays have gone up. Meanwhile, coverage has gone down, and many Americans have been forced to change their doctor to get coverage in the new plan. What is your solution to bring down the cost associated with health care and at the same time address those who have been offered subsidized health care plans under the Affordable Care Act? Secretary Clinton, you have up to 2 minutes.
I'll do more than bring down the health costs for families. I will ease the burdens on small businesses. Small businesses will benefit our economy and increase the rate of jobs, unlike Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump, you said you wanted to end Obamacare. You've also said that you want to make coverage accessible to people with pre-existing conditions. How do you force insurance companies to do that if you are not mandating that everyone has insurance? You also have 2 minutes.
Well, you see, Obamacare is not going to be repealed overnight, okay? So these people with pre-existing conditions will be taken care of. What we're aiming for is to end Obamacare gradually. You see, Obamacare wreaked so much havoc on this nation, we can't fix it overnight. But now, whichever one of us wins, it's going to have to be our job. I don't know if Secretary Clinton is going to clean up Obamacare, but I hope to. And we're going to use state high-risk insurance pools to subsidize these pre-existing conditions if they cannot be taken care of with Obamacare. When we try to repeal Obamacare, their doctors no longer offer them services. Additionally, once Obamacare is repealed, we will break down state lines so that if you live in New York, you can buy a health care plan in New Jersey, one that fits your financial situation. It'll also lower prices because competitiveness will be increased, and the demand for those products will be so high that the costs will go down so that the companies can do a lot better. We will also make healthcare tax deductible so that it effectively lowers costs. If you can put it into your taxes, it's going to take away from the amount of money you are paying every year or month for healthcare.
I am addressing both candidates. Do you have a plan to combat climate change and build a green economy? What steps will your energy policy take to meet our energy needs, while at the same time remaining environmentally friendly and minimizing job losses for fossil power plant workers? Secretary Clinton, you first.
Thank you. I will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 30% in 2025 relative to 2005 levels, and put the country on a path to cut emissions more than 80% by 2050. This will increase our job rates and make America have an amazing economy.
Mr. Trump, you may respond.
You see, global warming to me is a hoax. And should it be existent at this time, it is not an issue. You see, there is a lot of evidence to prove that the global temperatures have not changed in the past 19 years or so. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that global warming is not happening currently. Now, if it is, I think that we should invest our money and our time in more research and development. We will still have fossil fuels in the next 250 or more years. So now is not the time to be reckless in trying to find all these new forms of reliable energy that do not work. Solar power, for example, it takes you 3 or more years to earn your money back on putting panels on your house. That is not something that we should be investing in. I think we should be investing in more research and development to determine what kind of energies this nation should really be using.
Before we proceed to social issues, now let's hear a special word from our candidates.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
That marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
All this stuff. He took a lie detector test. I had to take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs.
Hello, I am Donald Trump, the Republican nomination for President of the United States of America. As American citizens, you need to ask yourself, do you really want crooked Hillary as your next president? Hillary's plan is to raise taxes, increase immigration by 550%, and take away our Second Amendment rights. As President of the United States, I will cut the company tax rate by 20%, increasing job growth, limit illegal immigration, which costs American taxpayers millions of dollars annually, and renegotiate the horrible trade deals which this country has made. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Are you tired of getting pushed around by the 1%? Are you sick of the lazy, rude, and crude politicians? Donald Trump follows this criteria. This man has devoted his life to lies, broken promises, and hatred.
I'm with her. I'm with her. I'm with her.
I'm with her.
I'm with her. I'm with her.
I'm with her.
I'm with her. I'm with her. I'm with her. Me too. Her.
We are stronger together. I'm with you, America. I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Let's pivot to social issues. What changes will you make to our current immigration policy to ensure that individuals entering our country are properly vetted and do not overstay their temporary work visas? Mr. Trump first.
Well, we're going to build a wall because it's going to keep the illegal aliens out. That I can promise you. We're also going to issue something called extreme vetting. We're going to question people about the country they're coming from, and we're going to keep a close eye on people coming from countries that have a history of terrorism. Afghanistan, for example, Syria. We're going to make sure that we do not put them into our communities without keeping an eye on them or making sure that they are here for the right reasons. We're also going to let ICE do their job. ICE, as you know, they endorsed me the other day, and I got the endorsement from Border Control a little while ago. And ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, we need to make sure that they do our job so that they are making sure that nobody's overstaying their visa and taking money from the American public. You see, when we catch an illegal immigrant and we want to deport them back to their country, a lot of those countries, you know what they say? They say they're not going to accept them. Well, that to me is unacceptable, because that is costing American taxpayers an extra $1,117 yearly. And that's not something that we should be dealing with as our country. They are not our problem, and we should not make it the American taxpayers' problem.
Secretary Clinton, you may answer.
I will introduce comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to fulfill and equal citizenship within my first 100 days of Oval Office. But with this, I have to vet all the immigrants that come in America. They have to be questioned and to be in America. They deserve to be in America, but they have to earn the right to be in it.
In recent years, concerns regarding the Second Amendment have been on the rise. As president, what will you do to deter gun violence and ensure the Second Amendment rights, specifically regarding background checks and obtaining of such arms? Mr. Trump, you first.
Well, I do believe in background checks. I think that they're important so that we make sure guns don't fall into the wrong people with criminal records, people with history of mental illness. But I'm all for protecting the Second Amendment. Hillary, she wants to take away her guns now, but I'm not going to take away her guns. You see, guns are an important part of America, part of American democracy. You see, when dictators take over a nation, what do? They take away the people's guns so they can't revolt. I'm not calling for a revolt, but I'm just saying that I think it's important that American people have guns in this country. It makes them feel safe, and it allows them to protect their families, their home, and their wealth.
Secretary Clinton, you may respond.
I believe we have common sense with this. Gun safety measures are consistent with the Second Amendment. We can protect our families and communities from gun violence, and this is what's killing many Americans, and we need to stop this immediately.
One of the very controversial issues of today is whether or not the woman's right to choose supersedes the right of the unborn. Mr. Trump, how do you feel on the issue of abortion and a woman's right to choose? And how would you also support the public funding of Planned Parenthood?
Well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I do support the three main causes for abortion. I support it if the mother's health is in jeopardy. I support if it has to do with incest. And I support if it has to do with rape. I don't think that mothers should have to bear children if they are burdened by one of those many concerns. But carelessness does not mean an excuse for abortion. If you do not protect yourself when having sexual intercourse, I don't think that that should be a reason to abort your child. I also don't think that if we are going to allow abortion, we should allow it at anything past 3 months. I think in the first 3 months, it may be all right, but after that, a fetus is already forming, and come 8 or 9, there is a child inside the womb, and I don't think it would be right to kill that baby. I also do not support the funding of Planned Parenthood. I think that if people want to open clinics in order to help women, that could be very smart, but I don't think that the government should be spending taxpayer money on things like that, especially if many Americans do not believe that because of their religion.
Secretary Clinton, how do you feel on the issue of abortion?
I believe in a woman's right to choose, and we should take away barriers and hurdles that have restricted access to proper medical attention. Government has no right to interfere in a woman's body. If you want America for women, if you want America for the people, if you want America for the freedom, vote me.
In light of the past radical Islamic terrorist attacks on the United States in San Bernardino and in Orlando, what is your strategy to deal with the radical Islamic terrorism and ISIS spread over 30 countries? Secretary Clinton, you may go first.
My strategy is to keep Americans on American soil without deployment overseas. However, I do believe in putting a no-fly zone over terrorist regions.
Mr. Trump, how do you feel on this subject?
Well, you see, the problem is we wouldn't be in this mess if it were not for Secretary Clinton's decision to put troops in Iraq in the first place, because you see it created a vacuum. ISIS took over from there, and that's the whole issue with it. Now we have to deal with it. It's in 32 countries, and my strategy is that we will try to move on Mosul with American troops, but mostly we will be focused on bombing places like Aleppo, which is already at this point a wasteland, but there are still people in there that we need to help. And in regards to people coming into the country from Syria and Iraq, we are going to use a process of extreme vetting so that we make sure these people are coming to this country for the right reasons. We should make sure that we're not allowing in people who want to hurt America, and that we need to make sure that they're just coming here so that they can get away from all the religious hatred and terror in their own countries. But that is going to be hard, and we're going to have to monitor people severely. And it may seem unconstitutional, but it is not, and it is only for the safety of American lives. Thank you.
How would each of you deal with foreign powers to eliminate and minimize incoming threats to the United States? Mr. Trump first, please.
Well, as I just said, we're going to use a process of extreme vetting. That means that we need to minimize the incoming threats, but the only way to do that is through many different tests, and the FBI has said that they cannot vet this many terrorists, which is why we need to use systems such as polygraphs, maybe even a religious test to determine whether or not they have been radicalized over there. Because if they have been radicalized over there and they're bringing it here, that can radicalize future generations that could be very detrimental to American society. That is the way that we are going to eliminate and minimize threats coming into the United States from countries such as Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and more.
Secretary Clinton, you may respond.
For America, we need to have vetting for our country. We need the right people to come in our country. We don't want anyone that brings us harm or anything else. We, as a nation of immigrants, need to be together, but at the same time, we need to be filtered through America, not random people coming in our country.
One of you will not win this election. So my final question to you tonight, are you willing to accept the outcome and will of the voters? Secretary Clinton.
I, unlike Donald Trump, will accept the democratic process and will absolutely accept the outcome of this election as the will of the American people.
Mr. Trump, you may respond.
Well, as you know, there are emails and all these different things from WikiLeaks and the Veritas Project coming out every day, so I don't think it's fair for me at this time to say whether or not I will accept the election. But I'll tell you this, I will accept it if I win, and until further notice, I will keep you, the American people, in suspense. Thank you.
That concludes our mock presidential debate. Thank you to Mr. Dean Avellis and the TV Society for its assistance in this production. Thank you, Mr. Gelbke, Mr. Gurney, and board members of the Politics Club for constructing it. Thank you, Holmdel High School, for its support, and thank you for tuning in. All that is required to make change in America is to be active participants of politics, so please vote.